Hey there friends, what's going on? It's Codiak here, back for another Assassin's Creed Valhalla survival guide video, and we are back with another tier list breakdown, and today we are checking out all of the ranged weapons in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I really wasn't sure I was going to do another one of these videos, but you guys really like the melee weapons vid. If you haven't checked that one out, hop on over, watch it, come back, watch this one, or watch this one, then go back and watch that one. It's going to be the same thing, but today we are talking about ranged weapons. And just a reminder, this is just my opinions. After about 120 plus hours with the game, I've got a little bit of know-how when it comes to Assassin's Creed. By all means, this is just my hot takes on all of the different weapons. I've got a nice spreadsheet in front of me, breaking it all down. And of course, guys, as always, feel free to let me know in the comment section if you think something is wrong or you think something is better or worse than I actually rank it, because I love having conversations about this stuff. This is why I do these types of videos, because having a conversation about why I think something is good and why somebody doesn't think it's good is actually a lot of fun for me, and I think it's healthy. I think it's good for a gaming community to disagree about things and to talk about it. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's check out each of the bows in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, the thing about bows is that each of the different types of bow, whether it be a light bow, a hunter bow, or a predator bow, kind of work in different situations. And I want to clarify something because there was some confusion in the melee weapon video. I'm actually rating everything within the item type itself. So all the light bows S to F are rated against each other, not necessarily against a hunter bow or a predator bow. They all work in different situations and they're all different types of weapons. That was doubly true for the melee weapons. You can't compare a one-handed axe to a flail. They're just different types of weapons. It's like apples and oranges. So I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. All the light bows are kind of rated against each other, all the hunter bows against each other, and all the predator bows against each other. And let's kick things off with the light bow category. I really love this weapon. It's very much a combat bow, a lot of arrows, a lot of damage, and you can really weave this in and out of your melee combat, and I think it's one of the most versatile weapons in terms of kind of bridging the gap between all of the different combat elements in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And there are some really good standouts here, specifically the Viper bow and the Spartan bow. We're going to start with the Viper bow because this is one you can get in the game, no shop required, increases your crit chance after each hit. This stacks up to 10 times. You get a 2-second duration, which is not a lot, but you can increase your crit chance by plus 30, and that's why this bow gets that S tier, because you're constantly going to be shooting arrows at your targets. Remember guys, you can upgrade your quiver in your inventory, make sure you do that, but that plus 30 crit chance is a huge number, and that's going to mean a lot more crits with the Viper bow. And like I said, you're stringing this bow in and out of melee combat, you duck back after a series of hits, boom, 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 you get those stacks up, and then a few crits in there, and it's just fantastic. It's a great bow. If you like light bows, this is the one to get. Now, I also mentioned the Spartan bow. This is a Ubisoft Connect bow. If you have 100 Ubisoft points or whatever they're called, you can pick this bow up right now. I'm not exactly sure how it ties into actual money, but it is technically a store or Ubisoft Connect item, and it is very good, which is why we need to talk about it. Temporarily increases your crit chance after a dodge. You're going to get 2.5 seconds on that duration, but you're going to get a flat plus 30 to crit chance. This is huge. This is a melee specific bow. You dodge an attack, you shoot an arrow, hopefully you get a crit. If not, do it again. Maybe you get 2 arrows in, you get 2.5 seconds after all, and you can just keep dodging and shooting arrows. Again, upgrade your quiver so you have a lot of arrows to shoot. This is a fantastic weapon across the board, and I actually believe this is brought over from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I didn't get to that point in the game, but this is cool that they're kind of throwing it into Valhalla as an homage to what came before this game. I think that's really neat. The last light bow I want to mention is Skadi's Wrath, and I think this is a really good bow as well. Increases your critical chance when hitting weak points. Now, the kicker here is that this buff lasts for 10 seconds, and you're going to get a plus 15 crit chance boost when you hit a weak point. And like I said before, with the light bows, you're going to be shooting a lot of arrows into targets. And the thing about this is, when you're using a light bow, you're most likely going to hit weak points by accident. You're going to hit weak points on every target, whether they're little peons or the massive elites. You're most likely going to hit a weak point at some point, and this will allow you to kind of use a light bow in a more mid-range sense. While the Spartan bow was really more of a melee type ranged weapon, I know that doesn't really make sense, but that's what it is. Skadi's Wrath is more of a mid-range or practical range weapon. Definitely worth your time. If you're looking for something that's more of a true light bow, gives you that true ranged experience, check out Skadi's Wrath. I think you guys will just automatically see the benefits without ever noticing it. I think you're going to get more crits, you're going to get more damage on your targets, and what is better than that? Absolutely nothing. Moving right along, let's talk about hunter's bows, and let me be very clear with you guys, I love this weapon type. It's what I use from start to finish my entire Assassin's Creed Valhalla experience. I just love it. I think it's great as a stealth weapon, it's great as a combat weapon, but I will be clear, there are no great standouts here in terms of really powerful hunter's bows. I think they're good ones, and I think they're decent ones, but I really don't think there are any that are standout. It really does come down to the weapon type itself. You're not going to get as many arrows with a hunter's bow, but you can get some really powerful shots, especially with that double arrow special technique the hunter's bows have. They're very good across the board. They work for every playstyle, whether it be stealthy or brash and in your face. I think they are fantastic. And the one I really want to talk about here is the Hunish bow. This is the bow that I've used since the beginning of the game. It's a very early bow that you get probably while you're still in Norway, if I remember correctly, and it increases your range damage when hitting weak points. And here is the kicker, 20 seconds on that buff, you're getting a flat plus 15 range damage. Is it as good as some of the light bows we just talked about? Not quite, but it is very good, which is why it gets that A rank, so very close to that S tier. And even for a bow that I've used from start to finish, I just couldn't give it to it. It's not a great buff, but it is a very good buff. In terms of other bows here, guys, there's not much. If I had to point another one out, it would be the Arc of Elan. Each successful hit temporarily increases ability damage. If you guys know anything about me, I love using my abilities in the game. You get 10 stacks with this, 2-second duration on each stack, and again, this is a little bit different because you're not getting as many arrows out with a hunter's bow, so you have to be very good at hitting your targets every single time to get that full 10 stacks, which gives you a meager plus 16 to ability damage. It really is not as good as it should be, mainly because of how slow the hunter's bow is compared to the light bow, but it is still a decent weapon if you like the challenge of making sure that every arrow is on target and then switching it up with an ability. That ability damage is going to work with your ranged and melee abilities, so you do get a little bit more out of it in terms of flexibility, but there is a higher skill cap that comes with using that weapon. Everything else, honestly, is kind of lame, and just because Livid and I did have a conversation about it, I want to talk about Drekka bow, which increases your range damage the heavier you are. Now, I am interested in this idea of damage increases based on how much weight you have, and I just want to be clear here. The weight that you carry as a player is determined by your armor and your weapons, not the stuff that you have in your bags, but your armor and your weapons. So what we're basically saying here is that this bow is going to get a buff based on what armor and weapons you're currently using, and that is a very strange thing in my opinion in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Sure, you could put on the heaviest gear that you have, the heaviest weapons that you have to get that plus 15 to range damage, but do you really want to move your entire kit one way or the other just to accommodate a bow effect? I really don't think so. It's a cool idea, and in theory it may work, but there's just too many things, other pieces of the puzzle that have to change, and that may not be your playstyle. Maybe if you want to go for some sort of challenge and you're just going for Drekka bow super heavy build, that's something. I guess it's something that you could entertain yourself with, but in terms of flexibility and progression in the game, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Before we move off this category, I should also mention Death Speaker, which does get a D rank, but I want to talk about its effect. Weak point hits restore some health. Now that's plus 25% health restored on hit with this bow, and that is really easy to do with something like Focus of Nornir. If you are a player that does seem to get hit and need to restore some health, there may be some opportunity to use Death Speaker, use Focus of Nornir, hit those points, and get back up to full. But honestly, towards the middle, later parts of the game, you're going to have enough rations if you're upgrading your rations in your inventory, but this weapon kind of ends up as a moot point because you're not going to need the effect, so it ends up just being a bow that does nothing for you. Finally, we have to talk about Predator bows. These are the snipers of the Valhalla world, and while I am not a personal fan of them, I do think they have their place for players that are looking for a more stealthy playstyle. And unfortunately, most of the effects on the Predator bow are pretty garbage. And the reason for that is that you have to consider the gameplay style that the Predator bow is designed for. The Predator bow is made for those players that like to stay in the shadows, that like to hit headshots, that like to just knock off as many targets as possible and then go into combat if there is combat even needed. Now, the thing about the Predator bow is that it's very hard to use in a melee situation, so they kind of adjusted all of the effects to compensate for the fact that you're never really going to be using this when you're up close to an enemy. And you can see here that most of them really don't even break past the C tier, and we've really only got one to talk about, and that's Bullseye. Stealth headshot kills automatically spawn a trap. If you're going for that stealthy play style, having an explosive trap that spawns inside of a stealth headshot killed enemy is kind of cool. It's kind of decent. It does kind of rattle the camp, and that allows you to hit more headshots. I think there's a little bit more flexibility here and utility than some of the other effects on the weapons, but yeah, it's not great, which is why it only gets that B rank. In terms of other weapons, we have a couple C's here: Recurve Bow, Shadow Strike, and Petra's Arc, and all of them relate to a health threshold buff. When you're above 90% health, you're going to gain some effect, whether it be +8 attack or +15 crit damage. They're all designed so that you can do just a bit more damage with those Predator Bows from the shadows. And like I said, everything is really designed to help you with ranged combat in stealth situations. The other ones here, the Needler, the Longbow, the Holmgard Bow, they're just not really doing anything for you that's going to be helpful. The Needler has an interesting effect. Stealth headshots create a sleep cloud around the body. This has got a 30-second cooldown on it, so it's not like you can really use this to great effect. It's a cool idea, but it really doesn't do much for you. Other bows that you have access to, like the Mark of Soul, which you can only buy once you get your settlement to level 6, have a terrible effect. Increase your ability damage when low health. If you're shooting people from the shadows with a Predator Bow, why would you be at low health? It just doesn't make any sense, and for a bow that you would get very late into the game, this is just a complete miss for me. It does not make any sense. I don't know why they put it in the game, and I do feel like they dropped the ball just a little bit with the Predator Bow effects. There was so much more they could do. Really had a chance to step outside the box and do things different, like the Sleep Cloud effect, like the spawning a trap, but they just really didn't lean into that. And what we ended up with is kind of a bunch of watered down sniper rifle bows. That's it. I do think the Predator Bow is a really cool concept, gives players that sniper rifle feeling in the Valhalla age, and hopefully with DLCs coming out, we'll see some new ones in the base game, not behind the store, in the base game. Here's to hoping. And there you have it, friends, all of the ranged weapons ranked and tiered in the Codiak style. And of course, if you did like this video, please let me know in the comment section below. I know tier list videos can be a bit overdone, especially on YouTube, but if you guys did enjoy this video and you want me to keep going, we've got armor we can talk about, we've got shields that we can talk about, just let me know in the comment section below and I will get to work. I will put my head down and crank out another video. As always, guys, thank you so much for the support of the channel. If you are not subscribed to Legacy Gaming, hit that button below. You know, it's free for you and really helps us out a ton. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.